once again, we come back and we continue to talk about our economy, to talk about how best we can survive in this economy. In recent days, things have really gone from bad to worse, and it's quite worrying. A lot of us, we are really shocked at what is happening to the local currency. The depreciation has been tremendous. All from a personal perspective, all my projections in terms of where we are going to be have been proved wrong. Why? Because suddenly there's been this huge upward movement of the rate between foreign currency, or between the US dollar and the local ZWL, the local currency. And where we discuss with my friends, with the different people have been asking me, and we've been asking each other, guys, what is really happening? Who is really pushing this rate upwards? And it's quite clear the rate is pushed by two things, by demand and supply all the time. Demand for the Zim dollar or demand for the US dollar, and supply of the Zim dollar and supply of the US dollar. So those are the major two items that push the rates, or both the parallel market rate and the official rate. So you see that there are a lot of people who have been coming in trying to tell us about the behavioral aspect of the push factors that can push the rate upwards. Yes, of course, there's that behavioral aspect, but it's not too much. Because even if people have this idea that the Zimbabwe dollar is going to fall, they can push the rate upwards to a certain extent, and that extent can only be explained by the supply side. There is someone somewhere who's opening up the Zim dollar tap and flooding the market with the Zim dollars. I don't know who. It could be the government, it could be the central bank. I'm not sure. I can't speculate without really getting into figures, without looking at the Reserve Bank balance sheet and trying to study it. Of course, that can be done, but we have to wait for the balance sheet to come out in the next, I don't know, maybe end of year. So that information is not readily available. We have to wait for the monetary policy statement that will show us the increase in money supply. But as we speak, the Zimbabwe dollar has really gone wild. And we have to do something about it from a personal perspective. You have to look at it and say, what is it that I can do? So just imagine a loaf of bread. I've seen in recent days that most supermarkets don't have bread. And the reason is simple. It's because the bread in the supermarket is being sold at the official rate. Yet these supermarkets were probably obtaining whatever, or not supermarkets, but the suppliers were probably obtaining foreign currency from the black market. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating here. And so they would not want to receive Zim dollar back from these supermarkets. Why? Because when it comes, it will have been eroded. So they were supplying short bread. They were supplying bread in short supply to these supermarkets, and then sending bread to outliers, to vendors, to smaller shops. Why? Because smaller shops pay cash on delivery. So we are at a stage where even if you're in business, even if on a personal perspective, you have to really be mindful of the currency that is in your pocket. If you receive Zim dollars, you have to spend all of it right away. It makes no sense. I've advocated for this for a very long time. It makes no sense receiving Zim dollars and trying to change it to another currency. It makes no sense. Why do I say that? Because you will see that at the end of the day, you will incur a lot of transaction costs, which will push the rate upwards. A lot of us, we don't realize the 4 to 5% that we are charged when we are transferring, because there's the tax aspect, then there's also the bank charges. So you don't realize those things when you're transferring. But normally what you would need to do is when we receive, then we need to spend in that currency as soon as possible. If you receive Zim dollars, then you have to find a way of spending it. If it's a lot of money, you're better off looking at opportunities that are still there. Opportunities such as the gold coins, the gold tokens. They could help. But what I'm sure of at this moment in time, the Zimbabwe dollar has suffered. And as a consumer, you have to be really mindful, because we don't want to fail at the end of the day and then to suffer from things that we can see. Don't try to save your money in Zim dollars anymore, unless if you go for the stock market, like we have advised before. If you go to the stock market, you are likely to preserve your money somehow. Getting your money in US dollars and then changing your money into Zim dollars, you also need to be very careful. But what I can say for now is the best assets that we can have at this moment in time with how the Zimbabwe dollar is performing. The best asset that you can have as an entrepreneur, as a working person, is actually a loan from a bank taken in Zim dollar. Why do I say it's an asset? So just get this. You go to a bank. I was speaking to my bank the other day, and they were telling me that they are giving Zimbabwe dollar loans and they are charging 105%. Of course, the Reserve Bank on the 6th of June, they increased the overnight rates to 150% or something like that. So banks are likely to also revise their interest rates. But for my bank, they were charging 105% per annum. So let's say you go and get 10 million from a bank, and you are able to do something. You have something to do with the 10 million. You don't just go into a bank and get a loan. You want to do something with that loan. You go into a bank, you get a loan, you buy an asset that you can. So let's say you get a loan for 10 million. At the end of the year, you pay them back the 10 million plus the 105% interest. Of course, it will be compounded monthly. It will be around 12, 13 million. So you pay them 22 million. But the asset that you would have bought using that money would be worth way more than that. So that's why I'm saying the best asset that you can have at the moment is you having your Zim dollars, your Zim dollar loan. You can pay it anytime you want to pay it off. And the good thing about it is inflation. We are in a hyperinflationary mode. So let's say you had a loan of 10 million last month when the rate was still below 2,000, or maybe let's just assume that it was 2,000. And now the rate is way above 5,000. So what it means is that loan is depreciated by over 50%. Isn't it that good? That is how good inflation is to those people who have got loans. You benefit because the value of your loan continues to lose value, whilst the asset that you are holding against that loan continues to increase in value. Even your income will also continue to increase in value, whilst that loan, even at 105%, you're still making a lot of money. So I would advise you guys to go to your banks and get Zim dollar loans. At this moment in time, buy assets. You benefit at the end of it. You thank me later. We have to be really careful at this moment in time and limit our exposure to the Zimbabwe dollar because it's losing value. At the same time, if we receive money in US dollars, I've said it before, I've noticed it before, I've done it myself. If you go downtown, if you go to the small little shops, even in the suburbs, in Epworth, in Warren Park, there's a shop in Warren Park, you'll be amazed at how cheap that shop is in US dollars. So be frugal with your money. These are very difficult times. Don't just get into a shop and buy things for the sake of. Look for the shop. If you have US dollars, go to the smaller shops. You will benefit. You will like it. The bigger shops, they are more expensive. I can give you this research that we have actually done. So we'll probably post it somewhere. just for you to see the differences in prices from the bigger shops to the smaller shops. That's enough for today. Thank you. Let's continue to interact, to comment, to talk about these issues. I love some of the comments that come through, or some of the discussions that come through. Some of you come through to my WhatsApp, and we have debates around these issues. So let's continue the discussion. Thank you. Have a good night.